On today's field trip, we are going to visit a mudflat community. It's hard to find good mudflats in Northwest Florida, but we are traveling to the best spot around this area, Archie Glover Memorial Park and Boat Ramp. It's located in Santa Rosa County, near the Avalon Boulevard exit off of Interstate 10. Archie Glover Park is on the southern end of Mulatto Bayou, where it connects to Escambia Bay. The waters here are calm and quiet, with low wave action and a surrounding salt marsh, a great place for silty muds to be deposited to form a mudflat. Mudflat communities are different from the other communities we have visited on our recent field trips, because most of the organisms that live here are infaunal. This means that they burrow into the soft sand and mud. So you'll probably have to do some digging to find some of the creatures that live here. But it's a great place to find worms and clams and small crustaceans. You can also expect to see a lot of shorebirds. They love to come feed at the mudflats, especially at low tide. Many of these birds have long legs and long beaks that help them reach the burrowing organisms deep in the mud. Well, we're almost there. Right up ahead is Archie Glover Park. All right, folks, welcome to Archie Glover Memorial Park and Boat Ramp. Chances are most of you have never been here, but we're over in Santa Rosa County today. And we're here to visit a mudflat. Strictly speaking, there are no good mudflats here in Northwest Florida because we don't have much mud. To really find mudflats, true mudflats, you've got to go over to Mobile Bay in Alabama or further to the west. There's a distinct difference right around the Alabama-Florida line. If you move more towards Alabama, you get more mud that comes from the Mississippi River. And if you get more over towards the Florida side, we're getting more sand that comes washing up on the continental shelf from the Appalachian Mountains and down through the rivers and into the Gulf and up onto our beaches. So we don't have really a lot of mud around here. The closest thing that we have is there are mud/sand flats that are associated with the edges of salt marshes. And that's what we're going to find here, really. And that's why we've come to Archie Glover Memorial Park. It is on the edge of a salt marsh. There is a boat ramp where people put their boats in the water here. There's some docks where people fish. And there's also some nice sand/mud flats. So that's what we're going to be today. The water is going to be a lot lower salinity than anywhere else that we've been. And there's also possibly some mosquitoes out here. So we probably want to put a little bug spray on before we go down to the water. A few basic things about mudflats that you ought to know. There's no big primary producers in a mudflat. There's no seagrasses, there's no marsh grasses, there's no kelps or anything like that. What we have is phytoplankton, and even that's not sufficient to feed everything that lives there. So most of the organisms that live here are either decomposers or what we call detritivores. Organisms that eat dead or decaying organisms. So most of the food that's in a mudflat is not produced in the mudflat. It washes in from somewhere else in the estuary. So that's probably washing in from Escambia Bay and coming up into this area. So you'll find a lot of dead plant material. You'll find some dead animals. The water is very murky. The bottom is very soft and squishy, and as we're wading around, you need to be careful because it's you can walk fine, and then all of a sudden you hit a soft spot and you sink down into the mud a little bit. So you just need to be cautious as you're walking around. Also, the stingray shuffle, we've talked about it before, but now's a good place to do that. There are stingrays out here, as well as some other things that could hurt you if you stepped on them. And so make sure you've got shoes on when you're wading. We will see some oysters out here probably, and some other organisms that definitely could cut you up. So make sure you got some shoes on. Those are just important safety things. If you get any scratches or cuts while we're out here today, you need to make sure you clean those really well. We've got some first aid kits, so clean that good, and then when you get back home, put some antibiotic on that after you take a shower, just to be sure. We're gonna, basically the first thing we're gonna do, like we always do, is our water quality analysis. We're gonna go out on the end of the pier down there, I think, and do some water quality analysis. I'll be letting you guys do most of that, and then I will turn you loose and we'll get our seine net and our dip nets out and see what kinds of critters that we can catch. Do keep an eye out for birds. There should be a lot of birds out here. Occasionally we do see some bottlenose dolphins or maybe a manatee, so keep your eyes peeled for that as well. Okay, so let's get our gear out of the van and take it on down to the dock and do that water quality analysis. All right, well, we're headed down to the last pier. It's the largest of the 3 piers, so I think it's big enough to fit all of our class on. As we get up to the pier, you don't have to carry all the gear onto the pier. The buckets, the seine net, and the dip nets, you can leave at the foot of the pier next to the garbage can. Alright, so this is a plant that looks pretty familiar to you probably. This is smooth cordgrass, Spartina alterniflora. And another one that should look pretty familiar to you, black needle rush, Juncus romerianus. We saw both of these plants at the salt marsh, so it's not surprising we would see them here. This is saw palmetto, Serenoa repens, another one that's familiar to you. Let's go to the other side of the pier. Alright, so this is Yopon holly, Ilex vomitoria. No red berries on this one right now. And lastly, dollarweed, Hydrocotyle bonarensis. So we've seen all of these at previous field trips, but mark them off on your sheet.